Hey guys, LevelCap here. Today we're going to be mastering the QBZ-95-1 assault rifle. This is an interesting little Chinese assault rifle. It seems to have been mostly forgotten by the Battlefield community. I myself haven't really used the gun for about 10 months. I look back through my YouTube history. I made a video about 10 months ago on this, and I hadn't really used it since, so I had to certainly grind my way through quite a few kills with this gun to get the mastery, but in doing so I learned how the gun shoots pretty well, figured out some good attachment combinations for it, and now I'm going to pass that on to you guys. Now, a lot of the Chinese guns in Battlefield 4 are, I wouldn't say underrepresented, but the stats aren't particularly great on them, so you don't really see them a lot, and I can't remember the last time I actually picked up a QBZ-95-1 from an enemy or was even killed by one. They're very, very rare to see. That, along with the Type 95-1, which is essentially the carbine version of this assault weapon. Now, in the big weapons balance patch that launched back in September, the QBZ-95-1 actually was touched a little bit. It wasn't a popular gun before then, and the balance made it better in some ways and worse in others. It got worse in terms of its accuracy while on the move. So before, it actually had pretty decent moving around hipfire accuracy and stuff like that. So it was a decent gun for that. That got reduced a bit. It's not necessarily bad now, but it's not as good as it used to be. Its aiming down sight recoil got improved a bit, not drastically though. Really though, that's not a huge deal because the side-to-side recoil on the QBZ-951 is so incredibly low right now. If it was reduced any further, it pretty much wouldn't have any side-to-side recoil. The vertical recoil isn't bad. It's very easy to manage. If you want to reduce that further, you can always use an angled foregrip or a muzzle brake, but I think that is really just not necessary for this weapon. As you can see, I'm running a 3.4 times optic on here because it's got the accuracy and low enough recoil to drop targets at those extreme ranges. I usually never put a 3.4 or an ACOG on assault rifles unless they have really, really good long range potential. Now let's pop up the SimThick stats here real quick so we can take a look at what this gun does best and what it doesn't do so well. 650 round per minute rate of fire. Definitely on the low side for assault rifles. You're not going to be dealing a lot of DPS. You're going to be outdamaged by most weapons in CQB, from PDWs to pistols. You're not really going to be in the best situation. So try and keep it long range to medium range whenever possible. And I would say the longer the better with this weapon. The bullet velocity is 630 meters per second, which again is very good for hitting long range targets and moving targets. Another suggestion to use this weapon at further ranges. Its reload time is 2.85 seconds for a short reload and 3.5 seconds for the long reload. This is painfully long, which is unfortunately probably pretty accurate to the real weapon. It's got an awkwardly placed mag release button, so it's not very quick to pop out a mag and pop one back in. And then quickly touching on the recoil, you'll see it's got very low side-to-side recoil, a bit higher vertical recoil, but not too bad, especially considering the low rate of fire. You don't experience that recoil very often, so it's going to be very easy to control this weapon. I would say the biggest competition for the QBZ-951 in this specific type of weapon, which is lower damage but very accurate at range, is probably the SAR-21, which has a slightly slower rate of fire at 600 rounds per minute, but an even lower recoil system, which is much easier to control. So those two guns really do offer you very similar performance. The SAR-21 does have a little bit faster reload, which I think in this case is actually a really, really big benefit, because a short reload of 2.85 seconds is tough, and when I did manage to go on the flank and be a little bit more aggressive, this gun just did not adapt to the situations. Even on my short reload time, I got killed so many times just trying to get that reload off before the next guy came running around the corner, and in more cases than not, I didn't. Now when it comes to speccing out this weapon, you're going to want to play it to its strengths. Long range, so you can definitely go with something like a 3.4 times scope. You'll see I'm using the Cobra sight here. If you have good accuracy with a red dot sight, then by all means go for that. I was using it just because I found it a little bit more adaptable, and I'd use it in games where my team wasn't being too aggressive and I needed to be a little bit more aggressive, and that was just my way of making the gun more adaptable. If you are going to play this to its strengths though, definitely something like a 3.4 times sight. Now there's two ways of underbarrel attachments in my opinion. You can either go with the angled foregrip to try and tap fire a lot of targets at further ranges, or you can go with the stubby grip to reduce the cone of fire and basically maintain your accuracy when doing small bursts at enemies further away. I was running the stubby grip most of the time and it worked really well. When it comes to barrel attachment, the QBZ has vertical recoil that's ever so slightly high enough that if you put the heavy barrel on there, find it to become a little bit more annoying and affect my accuracy more than improving it. So I just went for the flash hider, which is, in my opinion, still one of the best barrel attachments. The flash hider is great, especially when you're behind clouds of smoke, which people are using a lot these days. You're not going to give away your position. People can see muzzle flash through smoke clouds, so they'll just shoot at the muzzle flash instead. If you have that flash hider on there, you're basically going to be like a ghost in the smoke. Nobody's going to see you except for the fire actually coming through the smoke and hopefully hitting them. Now when it comes to accessories, a lot of you guys know my stance on laser sights, but for those of you who don't, I'm not really a fan of them. This gun actually has decent hipfire accuracy, so you can take advantage of that in close quarters. You're probably going to need to, since you're not going to have the time to aim down sight and still win a firefight. But a laser sight, in my opinion, is just going to be a little bit too cumbersome. If you're good enough at turning it on and off in the appropriate situations, then by all means go for it. There's no other attachment, though, that I would put on in that place. Now when it comes to kind of summarizing my opinions on this weapon, I gotta say I think the reload time on this gun is really holding it back. I don't have a problem with the rate of fire, especially since it's being combined with the reduced recoil and the accuracy. I actually like that. It allows me to pop a lot of headshots at really long ranges, much more effectively than I can with your standard assault rifles. So that's a nice feature to have, but what happens is I start going on these aggressive kill streaks. I want to move into the enemy base, and I find that the reload time, which I'm going to have to do constantly, is really slowing down my progress. It gives the enemy team a lot of time to spot me on the radar, prepare, and engage. And I really just don't have enough time to get my reloads done before either the enemy approaches me, or I have to sort of stop, go duck behind cover, reload the weapon, hang out for a little while it's doing that, and then re-engage. And by that time the element of surprise is completely gone. And as much as I would like to have a slower paced weapon in Battlefield, it just doesn't seem to be the way that BF4 plays out. You take out a few guys at long range with this weapon, which is what it does well, and then you gotta move in closer, because the remaining guys are at a different angle, they're hiding better. You need to move in closer, and if you don't have the gun that can basically adapt to that situation decently, it's going to be really hard to use. And that was the situation where I was getting frustrated with the QBZ-95-1. Mostly the reload. I think if they shaved a second off both the short and long reload time, this gun would be considerably more effective. Now from what I hear, speaking with the developers, the reload animations are a tricky thing to change. It requires a bit more work. You can't just change the stats and then the animations update. So it's a lot more work to adjust the reload stat versus other stats in the game, and I think that's why they don't generally touch them. But it would be awesome if in future Battlefield games they could somehow make the reload animation just scale directly with the time that you punch in for it, and then you can kind of tweak guns to your heart's content and update them very frequently without needing a lot of back-end work. It would also give you the possibility to have field upgrades or gadgets that would improve your reload speed. A lot of other games incorporate reload speed bonuses into their mechanics, and it would be cool to see Battlefield do the same. Anyway, if you're looking for an assault rifle that really caters to your long-range style of play, you want to just hang out in the backfields, pop heads from really far away, maybe use a magnified optic, then this is certainly a good weapon to use. I also recommend the SAR-21 if that's your style. Alternate between the two weapons, figure out which one you like the best. As always guys, thanks for watching. Let me know which weapon you'd like me to master next. There's a list of them in the video description, and I'll see you guys next time. This is LevelCap signing off.